Hey everyone, I'm Perry Pencil, and this is the Perry Pencil Podcast, Episode 2. I have a very special episode today. Today is my mother's birthday. The reason I chose to do this podcast based on today being my mother's birthday is because she's no longer with us. I want everyone who decided to join me today to help me commemorate her by sharing this experience with me on her day. Her departure wasn't the end, but rather the beginning. Allow me to explain. I'm going to take it back a little bit. My mother understood that this world isn't always the nicest place to live. So once I arrived on the scene, she would indoctrinate me using the 80s popular culture. She recognized my artistic abilities and used various movies to convey what she wanted me to learn. The method she used is very similar to what I call the cable guy aspect. If no one ever saw the Cable Guy movie with Jim Carrey, you're missing out. Now back to what I was saying. This is the idea that anyone can use television programming as a matrix loading program. This is a reference from the Matrix movie where they did the matrix loading program. The first franchise my mother introduced me to was Friday the 13th. But before I go on, let me say that I know what you're all thinking. Why? Allow me to explain. So my mother pointed out the significance of the relationship between Pamela Voorhees and her son Jason Voorhees. This was an inside joke that me and my mother and I shared throughout my life, even until this day. I still laugh about this. Jason Voorhees was traumatized as a child when he lost his mother at a young age. Jason was rejected by society, and his only love was from his mother. Now, the correlation between Jason and myself was the societal struggles I had as a child. Much like Pamela Voorhees, my mother was very vengeful when it came to me and my struggles early on, very protective and shielded me from a lot of things. And I would become the overcoming, unstoppable Jason Voorhees, or at least somewhat like the character from the film. Oftentimes I would hear my mother's voice telling me to get up, my son, prompting me to fight against any odds. I really appreciate the times that we shared watching these films. The Friday the 13th franchise correlation between Pamela Voorhees and Jason Voorhees, myself and my mother, would be more or less how I see the love that a son should have for his mother and be protective of her, and for her to be protective of him. Another franchise that was a connection with my mother is the Rocky Balboa movie franchise. Until this day, my mother is my Mickey. Like Mickey the trainer that trained Rocky Balboa in the film, is a lot how my relationship with my mother and I was growing up. Growing up on the streets of Philly, I had to learn fast and realize that not fighting and defending yourself was not an option. My mother would tell me to get back in that ring, and she would say, I didn't hear no bell. Of course, y'all know, in my mind, I would hear the Rocky Balboa anthem. Dun 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 dun. All right, I'm gonna stop there. I didn't want this video to be demonetized. Now back to the video. I have just one more character I'd like to mention and share with you all today. This brings me to my mother's passion for martial arts. Now, after many defeats, my mother couldn't take it anymore and told me that I needed to become what she would call a karate kicker. Now, when you scratch your temples to think about it, that's just the way she phrased things, and I always thought that was unique about my mother. She had her own swag and her own way of saying things. Her favorite was Chuck Norris. Mind you, at the time, I wasn't familiar with Chuck. So I watched a film called Silent Rage, where Chuck Norris would take on this unstoppable science experiment using a deceased guy named John. And I noticed that Chuck Norris was very heroic and very confident in this film. Between the bar fight scene and the climactic fight between Chuck and the science mutant, I was hooked. My mother signed me up for martial arts, and the rest is history. This brings me to the end of this episode. I'm glad you lasted up until this point. I really appreciate you stopping by to experience a portion of my mother's methodology. I want to use the Perry Pencil podcast to express myself in ways that I'm not able to in any other category on this channel. I also really believe that my mother's methods were extremely effective. How do I know? I'm a living witness. Finally, I wanted to acknowledge her birthday today by having whoever stops by and click on this video to know what type of teacher she really was. And because of her teaching method, she spawned my ideals that I will use to help teach others. Happy birthday, Mom. My gift to you is your ideals still live on. If you enjoyed this video and want more content like this, it would really help this channel a great deal. Please give this video a like, subscribe, and tell others about this channel. Thanks, and until next time, take care.